Okay, now roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Here.
Director Grajeda?
Here.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Here.
Director Vasquez?
Present.
Director Aceituno?
Here.
President Apodaca?
Here. Invocation, please, Director Vasquez, and Pledge of Allegiance, Director Getty.
Hi, Lonnie. Good to see you. Okay, let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, we give thanks for the many blessings that we have in our lives. We ask that you keep us safe and that you help guide this board in a positive direction, that we make decisions in the best interest of our constituents. In that we pray. Amen.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments and presentations.
We have one public comment, but we're going to say that for item 15. Okay, and then we have two quick presentations. First is to Donald Jones. This is a standing ovation award for Donald Jones in recognition of his extraordinary performance and commitment to Central Basin Water District, its water purveyors, and the communities through his work in the engineering department. He completed a vigorous training program, helped improve recycled water data and records, aided with the preparation and management of recycled water retrofits plans, and successfully increased recycled water sales for the district. Worked with the purveyors, public and regulatory agencies, sign holders, contract district staff, and operators to connect several sites in multiple cities. A total of 12 sites. Eco Park and Cuernavaca Heritage Plan will bring an additional 86.5 acre-feet of sales for the district, with more to come from connections in the up-and-coming months. Donald's positive attitude and desire to provide the best customer service while managing a heavy load of internal and external agency coordination, site inspection, regular testing is appreciated by many. Donald's efforts not only help the district in reaching our goals, they help public agencies, member and community within the district service area. So for his extraordinary commitment, the standing ovation to Donald Jones.
He also doubles as Max the Water Dog. Thank you, Donald, for your positive attitude. Thank you.
Our second is for Margarita Aguilar in recognition of 15 years of dedicated service. Maggie started with the district when she was 15.
I'm younger now.
That concludes it.
Okay. Item, item 4, MWD activities update.
Hey, good morning, directors. I have a few items to brief you on at Metropolitan. Several things are beginning to get going again now new year started. First off is the California Water Fix. Just want to update you on discussions that were held at the Water Supply and Planning Committee regarding the recent announcement from DWR and their intent to pursue the proposed California project as planned through a phased approach. The stage 1 would be 1 tunnel, 2 intakes, and 1 pumping station. The stage 2 would be a 2nd tunnel, 3rd intake, and 2nd pumping station. California Water Fix would be, there's discussions on possibility about it being funded by South of the Delta State Water Project contractors, and then potential participating Central Valley Project contractors. So during the Metropolitan Committee, there were discussions that included exploring the feasibility of investing more into the project, which would include State Water Project contractors selling water to the agricultural districts along the Central Valley Project. So recently, an economic analysis of Stage 1 was prepared for DWR, and it was released earlier this month. Staff at Metropolitan will be reviewing that analysis, and they will be bringing back more information to the Metropolitan Committee and Board for discussion and possible action in the next couple coming months. As far as any changes to what Metropolitan has already agreed upon, if there's any changes to that, they would bring back potential in that area. So we'll keep you updated on that, and we'll also bring it back to our Water Resources Committee for more information. Second item, assess valuation. Just wanted to brief you that, as you know, since December, we've been discussing a proposal for an alternative method of representation, and the deadline to submit that language was on Friday, February 16th. Unfortunately, we were unable to secure an author by that date. However, we will continue our education efforts with other organizations and other member agencies, and we'll, continue our education effort to inform everybody about our interest in that area. Third item I wanted to update you on was the proposed biennial budget and rates process. So Metropolitan held their budget and rates workshop on Monday, February 12th, to begin that process. And the overall increase that we're looking at for the bundled rates, it averages around 3% each year. However, in breaking down the different levels of the water service, the untreated water increases by 5.2%. That would be the replenishment water that we would sell. That's in the first year, and then the second year would be 3.4%. It's primarily, it starts at the untreated level because of the O&M along the State Water Project. So Metropolitan will have several upcoming workshops scheduled starting tomorrow. They're having their budget rates, the second workshop at 12:30. They'll have a couple more in March, and then they'll continue to have more if needed. They do plan to bring this for consideration to their board in April. We will continue to follow this process as it continues to develop, and we'll be bringing that to our Finance and Insurance Committee here at Central Basin. Last item I wanted to update you on is the proposed modification to the conservation program. So a few months ago, Metropolitan started a program advisory committee with member agencies to discuss and respond to the findings from a peer review that was conducted earlier in 2017. So this month, Metropolitan presented potential options evaluated by the Project Advisory Committee, and a few options include increased incentive for water-saving devices, introduction of a regional landscape transformation program, and expanding member agency-administered programs. We will bring update to our Water Resources Committee with more information on that as well. So that wraps it up for the updates I wanted to provide you on, unless you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer if you wanted to add anything.
Thank you. Director Getty, do you have any comments?
I have no additional comments.
Director Vasquez?
None.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5, Board of Directors reorganization. Item C, the election of Metropolitan Representative.
At the request,
Board President, I'd like to see if we can continue this item to our next meeting.
I concur with that. I think that'd be a good decision. Yeah.
Is that fine? Do I need a motion for that?
Yeah, we need to take a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to continue item 5.
Second.
Second.
5 seconds.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Consent calendar. Does anyone have anything they'd like to?
move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Action calendar, item 15, renewal Central Basin Water District Project Labor Agreement with the Los Angeles County, Orange County Building Construction Trade Council and Credit Union and District Councils signatory to the agreement.
start this off, I'd like to Mr. Ron Miller.
Good morning. Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades Council. We represent 140,000 hardworking men and women in the construction trades, and we've been a partner of yours probably for over 6 years now. There's some new faces on the board here from when we were here to get the original agreement done, but we've sat down and we've hammered out an extension for the previous agreement. We have sat down with your folks on the staff and figured out a good agreement that's beneficial to both parties. And I want you to know that this is more than just an agreement, this is a partnership. So we have a pretty strong lobbying arm up in Sacramento. When I go up there for meetings, I try to call around and talk to various directors and your general manager and see what we can do while we're up there. Same thing goes when we go back to Washington, D.C. So that's the partnership. We were intimately involved in the tunnels, and if any of you folks were at the MWD meeting that day for the tunnel vote, that was all the men and women of the building trades that were taking up half of that room. So we have the ability to provide a good, strong partnership. This agreement is a good, strong agreement. It's putting many local men and women to work, creating new careers, and also taking care of the veterans coming home from overseas and providing them with an opportunity to go to work in a good middle-class career. I'll be here if there's any questions, but thank you very much for the partnership.
Do I hear the recommended motion, anyone?
Move to approve.
Second?
Roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
I'll abstain.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Great.
Item 16, revised budget to increase funding of contract 2015-41 with Nosserman LLP through June 30th, 2018 for $150,000. Appropriation from district reserves and term extension of contract for the additional 1 year for $25,000 per month effective July 1st, 2018.
I said, Mr. President, at the time we prepared this, we didn't have the latest legal bills. Based upon that, at the end of the last billing month, we had $45,000 left in it. At $25,000 a month for 5 months that are left, that'd be $125. So the actual amount that'd be needed is $80. To avoid coming back to the board, we'd add a 20% contingency on it. So instead of $150,000, we'd request authorization to $96,000. And this will extend Nosserman services for the next 5 months.
Do I hear recommended motion?
I have some questions. The staff report says we'll be out of money this month. Kevin?
Yeah, they were anticipating at the time they wrote it, but the bills the last couple of months, as you know, came in significantly under, plus some of it was paid for by...
When did they write the staff report? Did they write the staff report this month?
They did not have the data when they wrote the staff report right now. That's all I can tell you.
I have issues with finding out within a couple of weeks that we're out of money. And I have issues with trying to understand how we went over budget. So I can't vote on this today because I need to understand how we got to where we got to, Kevin.
Director, we've been presenting where we are in the legal bill and the thing all the way through. Every quarter at the quarterly report, there's actually a section in the financial report that talks about the legal bills.
If that's correct, then we would have known, someone would have told us we're going to burn through money within the next month or two and be out. We would have been notified of this 90 days ago, if that's the case.
It was in the financial reports. Now, we're asking for the money at this time. We have $45,000 left. at the time this was done. I believe this still doesn't cover February's bill, which would be in, assuming that's another 25, unless we have 20,000 left to cover March. So we're doing it in a timely manner. We didn't want to do it too soon. We'd have a bigger variance. We didn't want to do it too short because we wouldn't give any notice. So I believe this is the appropriate time.
Mr. General Manager, the contract, we can assume it's $25,000. That's your authority for the bills to approve each month. 25,000 times 12, that's $300,000 contract. Anything above $25,000, you come before this board to get it approved.
That's right.
So any amount, let's say you got a $30,000 bill for the month, that's $50,000 more, $5,000 more than the minimum, so you can add those numbers and pretty much figure out where you are in the contract, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we also report on it in the financial report, there's a special section on it.
Do you report that the budget that we've set, we're exceeding that? I don't recall receiving a report from you or finance director on that.
No, I believe...
And as we come up with different contracts, when the budget was set, I would think you based it on certain numbers. So you're going to do $20,000 worth of pipeline contracts and whatever. If you have one pipeline contract that you approve that goes $30,000, it seems to me that you would come back to the board and say, we need to bump up the budget because we've got these new contracts that have come up. We didn't anticipate this, and at this rate, we're going to go over. That conversation, as far as I'm concerned, didn't occur in front of the board.
If I can assist in that, there is a monthly finance committee. The report that is presented before the finance committee is accessible and available to all board members. In there, you have a pie chart. I know one of our members like pie charts. I do it too. And in there, very specifically, it shows the expenditure per division. And one of those divisions is legal services. So tracking the cost, every month we track the cost, and we can figure out, how much we have exceeded the threshold. So the last report that we got, Andrew, was for what percentage of the year? 63%, or?
I believe it was 50%.
50%. So we clearly saw that legal services is exceeding 50% of the expenditure that is allocated for 6 months of the year. So we knew the trend is there. And that report is available to everyone, right?
Yes, and there's also a section in the report, I believe, that a table that shows you legal expenditures.
Right.
We still have that in there, Andrew? Andrew?
Yes, I'm looking for it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I remember that information.
Again, Director Gray makes a point. When is the time to bring it to the board? If we're over 1 month, we try and reduce it the other months. For example, last month the bill was $17,000. The bill before was $28,000, but $11,000 of that was to be picked up by the WQPP. So we get some savings, so we have to balance both of those, and it's an art, not a science.
Come in less than $25,000 for the last 3 or 4 months.
Excuse me?
I don't think we've had any months where the bills have been less than $25,000 for the last 3 months.
The last month was $17,000. The one before that was
Last month
$28,000.
was $17,000?
Yes, and the one before that was $28,000, $11,000 that I remember you chewing out about, not being clear about it. $11,000 of that was paid for by the WQPP. So that's 2 months.
It was paid or will be paid?
Will be paid. They haven't billed them yet.
If the Finance Committee is reviewing this and the Finance Committee is saying that they review this and see that that the budget is going over in terms of legal costs, you're reviewing that and have no issues with that?
Yes. I'm one of the members on that committee. There are 3 members.
What? So you think 30,000, 90,000 is enough to get us by to the end of the year?
You don't know what's coming at you as far as the legal costs are concerned. We have challenges to the district. You can't control that.
Yeah.
If someone sues you, you don't know ahead of time that it's coming.
A lawsuit is one thing, a pipeline contract is another. Each of these individual issues, there should be a budget for them. It shouldn't just be open-ended. When a contract comes in, you should already anticipate what the legal budget should be. And if it goes over that, then the board should be made aware of that. And if it continues to go over that significantly, the board should be made aware of that. And there have been many contracts, these pipeline contracts and the recycled management was very expensive. And those could have been anticipated, and if they weren't, then the budget should have been expanded at that point in time. That's my point.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to sit down afterwards and go through. I don't
We have
track it.
sat down many times and discussed this, Kevin, you and I.
Well, I don't understand your point at this time, sir.
Forgive me, if we were to look at the, let's say, non-litigation related matters, let's, for lack of a better term, call it operational needs of the district as far as legal services is concerned. When you put that all together, it won't hit the $25,000 mark.
No, sir.
On the average, it won't hit the $25,000 mark. That's the bottom line. The exceedance has been $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 some months. I know one month was $32,000, but those are all litigation litigation-related matters. So for the general needs of the district, we won't hit the $25,000 mark. And I'll be happy to sit down with you and go through the bills and analyze them with you.
All right.
And
I'll take care of
figure it out. Yeah, please do. With that, I'll make a motion.
Have a second?
Just
I
for
second it.
clarification, are they improving
Roll call.
1 and 2?
Yes.
No, just item one.
Just
Just
item
item
one.
one, which is the, and that's for, not for 150, but for
For 96.
96.
Who made the second?
Director Patel.
Oh, Director.
I second it.
Okay. Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
No.
Director Hawkins?
Abstain.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Abstain?
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
You have 4 yeses, 1 abstention, 2 abstentions, excuse me, and 1 no.
Okay, so the result of this vote means that at the end of this month, we have enough money for the bill. The following month, we're not sure we have enough money for the bill. So I guess we can bring it back to committee or the board, and what's your pleasure? Because we still have to operate the district and pay the attorneys, or...
Mr. Chair, I'd like to bring this back. I would like further information on the bills and establish that if Director Oscui is correct, that's different, but I think that there are some other issues that need to be watched much more closely when it comes to approving these bills.
Okay, so we bring this back in March. We should be okay till then?
Item 17, resolution readopting Part 4, Chapter 2 of the Administrative Code Investment Policy.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. As you know, this is the year that we review the investment policy, and the board adopts an annual investment policy. This item has been presented to the Finance and Administrative Committee earlier this month and was approved to move this item to the full board. As was discussed in the committee, before I go into the actual changes to the investment policy that were proposed, key financial investment objectives are threefold: safety, liquidity, and yield. That really is a statewide and nationwide investment policy that each treasurer and district or city council really follows those 3 objectives. And the investment policy retains those also. The only change really of substance relates to the Los Angeles County Pooled Investment Fund and including that investment that the board approved last month. So that pretty much is the only substantive change that occurred in this proposed policy. And with that, that concludes my comments, and I'll answer any questions.
Questions, anyone?
Move to approve.
Second.
Director Chacon?
Roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osculi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Item 18, authorization for the amendment to the professional service contract number 2018-26 with Raftelis Financial Consultants Incorporated in the amount of $9,509 for the preparation of a water rate study.
This is also my agenda item. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Previously, the board has directed staff to conduct a rate study in compliance with Prop 26. The timing was to be done as soon as possible. Previously, Raftelis was competitively selected by the district and has performed various work, including financial projections. In completing this item and research, staff researched some of the previous work that had been conducted by Raftelis Financial Consultants, and they had done a rate study for neighboring or a sister agency of Central Basin for the Municipal Water District a few years ago. And the amount of that proposal was, or that rate study was $64,900. They will be proposing or presenting 3 different options to the board to solve this approximately $2 million budget deficit that we're projecting for the next fiscal year. The first option will be to, in essence, for the board to approve a fixed retail meter charge, almost exclusively in that $2 million range. That's the current amount that may change. The second option would be to raise our existing rate structure to meet that $2 million deficit. And the third option would be some kind of combination between the two. So with that, in the budget, we have approximately $25,000. We're requesting staff is about $9,500 additional to complete the rate study in a timely manner. And that is the recommended motion. With that, that concludes my comments, and I'm willing to take any questions from the board.
I have some questions, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Andrew, I don't know if you can answer this question, but Raftelis worked on the Metropolitan Water District of Orange County on their rate study, and it just so happens that Metropolitan Water District of Orange County also did a fixed meter charge, and they may be the only one out there that hasn't. I don't know. So they're considering a fixed meter charge here too. Is that correct?
That will be one of the proposals to the board.
There are 2 options, right?
There's actually 3 options, but just to clarify, the rate study that Raftelis did for Municipal of Orange County was to continue a fixed charge that they'd already had in place since 2009, I believe, because I was there when they did it. So there was a continuation.
They didn't set that.
They didn't set it and initiate it, they didn't set it, they were just continuing it. And with regard to this one, they're looking at 3 things. One is, if we don't have a fixed charge, what would the rates be? Second is, if we have the normal rate increases that we projected in our rate master plan and a fixed charge, what would the rates be? And the third would be a hybrid, if we, to try and achieve equity, whatever that is, if we increase the normal charges for waters above the 5% in the rates master plan and decrease the fixed charge, what would that be? So those are the 3 options that they'll be presenting. And of course, if things happen in between then that eliminate the need or reduce the need for the fixed charge, and, you know.
What are they considering? Just our revenue stream as it stands right now?
Our revenue stream as it stands right now with rates and the sales that we have.
No, but what are they considering? Our revenue stream as it stands right now and what they're going to project it's going to be? Is that what they're doing? Is that what they're going to do?
No, I'm sorry, but we actually are projecting water sales and then the updated rates for the next year. They're doing a rate study for fiscal 18-19.
Do they look at expenses also?
Yes.
Are they going to take into consideration many of the things that are on the table right now?
Absolutely. They're trying to take in whatever's been approved by the board. As you know, we've been trying to get cost cutting through here and approved by the board. Whatever's been approved by the board is being integrated in there. Anything else we can come up with. The way we're hoping that it will work is that we will be able to get the input, for example, from the ad hoc committee ahead of time, hopefully by mid-March, and be able to take that to the board and get that input so that at the end we can ground in whatever the latest and greatest that's approved by the board is.
I thought the ad hoc committee had already given staff direction.
The ad hoc committee?
Yes.
No, the ad hoc committee is still, of the retail agencies?
Yes.
They're still working on stuff.
There's another meeting coming up, right?
Yeah, on the second. I thought, again,
When are they supposed to be, I apologize, when are they supposed to be done?
I think by mid-March. That's
Mid-March?
yeah.
There's a meeting tomorrow, and then there's also another one scheduled for the following week.
And then they're going to write a report on it.
The ad hoc committee is going to write a
Yeah,
report.
yeah. And then we'll present it to they'll present it to the board, and we'll present it whichever they prefer, and then we'll get recommendations from the board on what they think on the different parts of it.
Will Ralph tell us how that before they start?
No, they've started on the mechanics and the writing of it, and preparing these. This is a spreadsheet, so the good news is that whatever changes are integrated at a late time, we can rapidly assess. What they'll give us in March will be a draft. Again, because it depends on the board approving, whether they approve any changes to the cost structure in March. It may not be to the board meeting, in which case we'll redo it, but our rates, this is the first cut that'll come out in March. If there is significant changes by the board to the cost profile or anything else, then that will be translated into the final rate recommendations that will come out to the board for approval in April.
Members of the board, I'm just concerned that there's still a lot of potential expense cutting, and I don't know if that'll be given to Raftellus in enough time to incorporate that into their structure.
Well, let me suggest a couple of things.
Excuse me, plus there's some other things you're working on in terms of revenue generation.
That's right.
Is that going to be in there?
Depends on how far along we get in negotiations on it. The Vernon one, definitely. I think we're rock solid on that. The negotiations with for the water movement, which we'll report on a little bit later on, that may take longer.
Increases to the rates, the fixed meter charge to the purveyors is extremely important, and anything that we can put in there or consider to keep that down, that should be primary.
And it is. And one of the things, for example, that I've recommended to the purveyors is that in their recommendations, they suggest that any monies that we get in our negotiation with WRD or any sales that come up for sale of replenishment water go to counteract that charge. So that it's a dynamic charge. It's we are trying to minimize that as much as we can. That's why we have the three options there.
Has that information gone to any of the committees? The Finance Committee, have they discussed that?
When we first put out the scope of work, yes. And again, I realize it's complicated because there's moving parts. You have three different options. You have different parties preparing cost change. The thing to remember is that the only one who can change my cost profile is the board. So when the board takes action, we'll modify whatever it is. I'm hoping to have all the cost-cutting data to the board by the end of March. I'm not sure if I will have the revenue enhancement part from WRD completed at that time, but there's a way to hedge that we can do. So that's what we're working on now.
What we have before us is a request for an extension.
Yeah, it's additional money. Yeah, which was, the board understood this because you had an extra option.
But let me also offer two things. Raftellus was here about maybe 3 months ago, and they did a presentation. They have a computer model. They had the computer model developed a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And while Sanjay was sitting, right?
Yeah.
Sanjay was sitting there was some new information that we discussed. Very quickly, he put it in there, and because he has the model developed for the district, with some change of parameters, he can give you a different results, and you can look at it. So I'm sure they're doing the same exact thing, except that they have now expanded it because there are 3 options that they're redoing.
And there's a complexity, it has to be Prop 26 compliant, they meet certain legal equity.
That aspect of it. Number 2, anyone who does a rate study sometime in January, February, March, they already know that right there and then we are in the midst of preparation for the next fiscal year. So we are in a preparation for the next fiscal year. We're not going to take a vote on that until probably June, but all of those things that you mentioned, the cost-cutting measures, the additional revenue, potential revenue sources, and all of that is going to become a part of the budget next year. And once we have access to that information, Dactylis is going to get it, put it into the model, and then the number that you're going to get is the number that you're going to get.
Director, the only difference is a wholesale agency, we usually try and get it budgets done a year earlier so that it's available for the retail.
Right.
Not a year, I mean a month earlier. So we will do it by May instead of June at the latest.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But what I'm suggesting,
Yeah.
in March, you don't have all of that
Exactly.
data. You
No,
have
you're
as
totally
much
correct.
as you have.
By May, we should have everything wrapped up, rock solid.
I see a number of water purveyors here, and I think it's important that they understand where we're at, mainly because of the fixed meter charge. How many letters have we received now of complete opposed to the fixed meter charge, Kevin? Do you know?
Well, I think the big one we received was from the Central Basin Water Association, which represents a lot of them. We've, I think, have about 8 or 10 letters directly from people, and we've had stated opposition in meetings from almost every one of them. It's not a very popular idea.
Was there a motion or is there a motion?
Yeah, there was a motion. Do I have a second?
There's not a motion.
So I moved that.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Abstain.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Abstain.
Director Osculi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Item 19, approval of resolution from Special District Risk Management Authority to continue to provide workers' compensation coverage for governing body.
Good morning, directors. SDRMA is our workers' compensation carrier, and through them, we've been able to save approximately $3,000 from last year's premiums. Both appointed and elected board members are covered under our workers' compensation insurance, and SDRMA has requested that the attached resolution be approved by the board in order to comply with Section 3363.5 of the California Labor Code, which requires that for individuals who volunteer their time, such as members of our governing body, they be considered employees for purposes of workers' compensation coverage. SDRMA has requested this resolution be signed by the board, president, and approved by the board, and this is due to their carrier requesting this information. Board members may be considered volunteers if they don't receive per diem while fulfilling their duties, and approving this resolution doesn't change any benefits already provided to the directors. Unless you have any questions, which I'm happy to answer at this time, the recommended motion before you is that the board approve, adopt, and authorize the president to sign resolution number 2-18-940.
Make a motion, Mr. President.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Osculi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you. Item 20, elevator issue at district headquarters.
Good morning, directors. This is a continuation from an item that was brought before you in December and January. I apologize, it should have been brought back before you in February, but I was ill and didn't have time to get the required board memo in. The elevator has been out of service since October 24th, 2017. Specifics about the type of damage that was caused by the pipe that broke has been presented. It's an oil break. I have Amtech elevator here, though, if you do have any specifics on the damage that was, or the mechanical failure and what causes it, and any preventive measures that could have taken place. I do have them available. One of the things that was requested by the board is that we go out and seek additional vendors. I did talk to 4 vendors, some of the larger companies, Otis, American, and Tyson Crump. They solicited, but they all declined to provide quotes to repair the service. It goes back to the issue of the service provider. Having one service provider here and another person repairing it while other service providers' materials are on hand, they just did not feel comfortable providing a quote. In addition, I've talked to our current provider, Amtech Elevator, about options that should occur if we choose not to repair the unit. Some things that we do need to keep in mind. If we choose not to repair the unit, we will be out of compliance as far as employees, as far as providing office space, and we can then conduct no meetings upstairs that we require movement. The other piece of that is if we do choose not to repair the unit, we need to decommission the unit. And there is a cost associated with that. I have not dug into the details of that cost. I do not believe they'll be extensive. But if we do choose to do that, we would, any future changes to the elevator, or additions or attempts to add an elevator, we would fall under new construction requirements. And those are significant. In talking to our vendor, they anticipated replacement of an elevator to be anywhere between $150,000 to $250,000. Unless there's any questions, there's 2 different motions before you, or 1 or 2. One is to repair the unit for an amount not to exceed $67,265. I've added 10% contingency. That will not all go to Amtech Elevator. Amtech does not remove the contaminant soils. There will be an alternate company that would do that. But those costs are included in that motion, and a 10% contingency just in case of any items that may come up unexpectedly. The second one is to decommission the unit and to evaluate what costs would be associated with that, although I don't think they would be required to come back before the board.
Question?
I have a question, President.
Yes, sir.
Albert, the elevator has been down since
October 24th, 2017. It's been a little bit under 6 months, or a little bit over 6 months, I guess now.
So there is a line item for the warrant run that we just approved in the amount of $661.50. Elevator services, repair and maintenance for the period of January 1/18 to 3/31/18.
That's a contractual obligation. I've been talking to Mark about applying those costs towards the repair of the unit since there was no maintenance done during
Yeah,
that
I would
time.
like for that to happen because they didn't do anything.
And that's not an issue. They're both saying it's not an issue.
So having said that, now this leak has been going on for a while, right?
The pipe is actually, they've already lifted, so yes. The first answer to that question is yes, but there's been no additional leakage.
Right.
They've put the elevator on lifts, on the ramp, so it's not pressing down anymore.
Right.
Although we have seen some oil leak through the top portions of the pipe out onto our floor. It has not been a significant amount, though. Drops.
Yeah, maybe the representative can elaborate on this. Is there any way of detecting this before the elevator stopped and, once we opened the pit, we figured out that there was an oil leak? Is there any way to detect that sooner before the leak expands and happens in the first place?
No, because the leak was underground. It was the cylinder that is buried in the ground is what failed. And
there
so
are no indicators, no instrumentation, nothing that, Okay. All right.
That cylinder underground, quick question, that cylinder underground, is there an initial amount of oil or hydraulic fluid that's fed into that, and that's what you've got, or how does that function, I guess? Because I too am interested in some kind of monitoring or some metric to measure your oil is there or not there.
So the cylinder that's in the ground is the original one that was put in back in 1961 when the building was built. And so when the project would be completed, that existing cylinder would be pulled out of the ground. And basically, the function of the hydraulic system is you have a machine room with a tank, a hydraulic tank of oil. That oil is pumped, pressurized into the cylinder in the ground, and then that's what pushes the elevator up. And then as the elevator demand is to come back down, and the button's pushed, it opens up the valve, and then the weight of the elevator just pushes the elevator back down, and all the oil returns to the reservoir. And so at some point, that cylinder that's buried in the ground became compromised just by the soil content. It's a steel cylinder back in the 1960s. The cylinders were not protected in any way like they are required to today. It's basically a steel pipe buried in the ground. And so over time, the ground soil erodes away the integrity of the steel pipe, and then a pinhole leak will develop, and then that's when the oil starts to leak. So, yes.
But was there any way, did we have to refill the oil supply because we're leaking a pinhole amount of oil?
Correct. So that was established pretty quickly that when oil was lost, as part of our maintenance program, we monitor oil usage. And so somewhere along the line, Mark, was it a failed load test?
We did the pressure test.
So, no, but when it lost oil, so we lost oil, then we came and do it. So basically, we, at the time it started losing oil, we shut the unit down, and we came and we did a pressure test on the system, and we determined with that pressure test that the oil leak was underground.
So that, would it be fair to say then that the integrity of the system from 1961 until last year sometime was pretty good?
Yes.
Or was it just have this corrosion occur at the end of the year and that was it?
Correct.
Okay. Will we have a system to monitor that going forward?
So just also for the board's knowledge that every state, the elevator code required that the elevator be load tested with the capacity, lifting weight of the capacity with test weights every 5 years. So it was passing that test every 5 years up until this time. So that test is just simply a snapshot in time. And then it says, okay, at that time of the test, there was integrity in the system underground, and then our regular maintenance program then just monitors, and if we see that there is oil loss, then we shut the system down, and we go to a gentleman like this, and we say, hey, we need to do a pressure test because we're noting oil loss. We shouldn't see oil loss. And at the time, once we did the pressure test, we determined that the leak was underground.
Thank you.
To talk about fail safety too, Director, the new valve has, what was it, dual fittings? I believe it's dual fittings to help prevent such a leak from occurring again.
Yeah, so the new design of the cylinder, so we'll extract the old cylinder out of the ground. Before we put a new cylinder in the ground, a PVC, just imagine your sprinkler pipe, that's typically 1-inch sprinkler pipe, but one that's 18 inches in diameter, that goes into the ground. Then the steel cylinder goes inside that PVC, and so now you're protected from the ground. But additionally, you're going to have here, we have put in pricing for, it's a PVC well casing, which as we drill the hole, it holds the ground from collapsing. So that isolates it once, but then inside that, we're going to put an additional PVC that is around the steel cylinder, and then that is, the way it's set up is to where we can monitor if there's any liquid in there, and we could remove it if we needed to because it's pressurized. And so our company, the design is from Otis Elevator. Amtech Elevator is owned and operated by Otis Elevator, and so Otis produced a extremely safe version of this cylinder. And so we're one of the only ones that we give a 20-year warranty on this cylinder that's put in the ground with uninterrupted maintenance, continued maintenance and monitoring of it.
Thank you. Yeah, one last question, and I know the mechanical engineers in the room love this, most likely not everyone else, but would it be fair to say that we're not going to find a lot of oil in the soil from this particular event? based on what we know at this time.
That's correct. You shouldn't, and so the containment, the standard practice for containment at this point is, right now, the cylinder is probably about an 8-inch cylinder that's in the ground. We're going to drill a 24-inch hole down as deep as that cylinder goes in the ground, and this is what this gentleman was talking about. That dirt then would be brought up and put into 55-gallon drums, given an EPA number, and contained, and so any oil that came out is probably in that circle, and so we're going to grab it, contain it, and it'll be taken away and given an EPA number.
Again, thank you.
With that, Mr. President, I move to approve option number 1, which is to repair the elevator system.
One thing, before you do that, Director, one thing I do want to mention in addition, and I believe it's in the recommendation, is where the funds will come from. Funding will be pulled from reserves for this. This was not a planned item, repair.
And this is a capital expenditure?
This would be a capital expenditure, not an operating expenditure. Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Do we have a second? Dr. Cook. Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you, Directors.
Item 21, 2018 JPIA-MA Board of Directors Election Ballot. Oral report.
Yes, directors. So the district is part of JPRIMA, and last week the district received via mail a proxy ballot for JPRIMA's upcoming annual Board of Directors election and meeting on March 16th. The board may vote for up to 9 candidates, and you see the listing of all those candidates before you. There are actually 9 of them who are nominees as well. The ballot must be submitted by March the 9th, 2018. This is the reason that this item is not going before Admin and Ethics Committee. And the recommended motion before you is that the board authorize the board president to cast a vote for each of the 9 candidates listed on the March 16, 2018 ballot. And the board may also wish to withhold their vote for any nominee or withhold their votes for all nominees. And this is all the information we've received from JPRIMA. We did not receive any biographies from any of the candidates.
Dina, we do know 2 of the candidates, obviously, Mr. Byram and Mr. Bradbury are both known to us here in the district, and definitely support them.
I'll make the motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
I have a second. Roll call.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes?
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you. Information calendar, item 22, discussion of the recycled water distribution system hydraulic model.
Yes, good morning, directors. We wanted to provide an update on the project that we are now looking into that may benefit multiple agencies should it be achievable. To start, we wanted to provide some information on the potential project at hand. So towards the end of last year, the Water Replenishment District, or WRD, confirmed that they were looking for additional supplies of recycled water. And the additional supplies would be for use at the spreading grounds and for their groundwater reliability improvement project called the GRIP. And so thank you. The configuration of the district's recycled water distribution system and the locations of the district's pump stations may allow for an additional supply of recycled water to be delivered to those 2 locations. And so the first step to see if something like this will be feasible is a hydraulic model, and this is to model the district's system. And so we put together some slides to illustrate the first option that will be investigated by our on-call consultants, who are Tetra Tech. And so for this slide here, it shows the district's recycled water distribution system, the district's pump stations, and the 2 Los Angeles County Sanitation District reclamation plants, which supply the recycled water. Let's see if I can get this to go smoothly. Okay. So on this next slide, this was an attempt to show the system a little bit more clearly. And so what we have done here is we have overlaid a diagrammatic style graphic of our distribution system, and this is over the map. And so if you look closely, and I understand it will be very difficult to see, the diagram is placed directly over top the system on the map. And so I will be covering each of these facilities and a few more on the following slide as well. Okay. So what we have here on this slide is the purple lines depict our recycled water main lines, and the light purple circular shapes represent our pump stations, and they are labeled with their names. And you will see the Rio Hondo pump station, which is one focus point for this project, and that's towards the upper right-hand side. The Cerritos pump station, which is owned by the city, at the bottom, and the Hollydale pump station, which is mid-left, and lastly, the Cudahy pump station, which is at the top left. I'd like to point out that the color for Cudahy has been darkened, and this represents it not being currently in service at this time. We show the district's pressure reducing station with the blue hourglass shape. It's kind of hard to see, but it's on the right-hand side of the slide. And the San Jose Creek plant at the top right of the diagram, and the Los Coyotes plant at the bottom, and those are shown in a brownish gray color. WRD's grip is the green rectangle, and that is adjacent to the Rio Hondo pump station in the upper right. And lastly, the spreading grounds are shown in yellow. It's a yellow rectangle. And so this slide represents the plan that will be investigated first by our consultants. The red arrows show the flow pattern from San Jose Creek supply, and the light blue arrows represent the flow pattern from the Los Coyotes plant supply. I would like to point out that this slide does not show our current flow pattern. It shows the flow pattern that we're currently investigating. Demands for recycled water over the years have varied. For today, we will use 5,000 acre-feet per year. This is an example. So our contract with the sanitation districts have a limit of 5,500 acre-feet per year, and that's for San Jose Creek, and 5,000 acre-feet per year, and this is for the Los Coyotes supply, and that totals 10,500 acre-feet. And so currently not shown on this slide, the majority of the district's recycled water supply comes from the north in the upper right-hand corner, and that's from San Jose Creek. The volume of the San Jose Creek, those supplies have recently ranged from about 3,500 to 4,500 acre-feet per year, and the volume from Los Coyotes is much less, and this has been ranging from 300 to 500 acre-feet per year. The recycled water flows from the highest pressure zone in the north, and that is served by the Rio Hondo pump station, and it moves in the southerly direction. And the flows from the San Jose Creek pass through the district's pressure reducing station. Again, that's the blue hourglass, and they serve customers, or that supply serves customers throughout the entire system. Supply from Los Coyotes is introduced through the Cerritos pump station that's owned by the city and operated by the sanitation districts, and that typically supplements the lower region. And so at this time, supplies from Los Coyotes do not travel north around the pressure reducing station, which has a bypass, unless the San Jose Creek experiences a loss of supply, which has not been frequent. However, so looking back at this slide, I wanted to go and explain the numbers. Let's see here. So for WRD, what they had requested is that they would like 3,000 acre-feet per year for their GRIP project, and that would be directly delivered from the adjacent Rio Hondo pump station. So this, I'm focusing on the upper right-hand corner. And so from the 5,500 acre-feet that we have available at the San Jose Creek, that would leave 2,500 acre-feet. And so the district would need around 500 acre-feet to stay in the northern region, and that would be to serve customers in Montebello and Pico Rivera. And this leaves 2,000 acre-feet, of which WRD is requesting to be delivered to the spreading grounds, and that's through the district's distribution system. So it would be traveling south and going towards that yellow rectangle. And so those numbers and flows for the San Jose Creek supplies are shown in red on the slide. And at that point, San Jose Creek supplies would be maximized. And so per our contract with the sanitation districts, they can reduce our supplies if we're not using them or showing we have a need for the assigned amounts. The San Jose Creek supply would then stay in the northern area, and that would be above the pressure reducing station. So switching gears and taking a look in the southern area, of the 5,000 acre feet from Los Coyotes, WRD is interested in another 2,000 acre feet for the spreading grounds, so that would be 4,000 acre feet for the spreading grounds in total. And so in order to accomplish this, flows in the distribution system would need to reverse and bypass the pressure reducing station. And so the 2,000 acre feet would then be delivered via pipelines to the spreading grounds, which is the same for supplies from San Jose Creek. And this would leave 3,000 acre feet available for the district's contracted supplies, and that would be to serve an approximate 4,500 acre feet of demand that we would have. So the 1,500 acre feet plus or minus, depending on the consumer's needs, the deficit would then come from WRD's supply at the Los Coyotes plant as an exchange for some of the water coming from the San Jose Creek. And the end result of this change in operations and supply is that, one, both the district's contracted supply sources will be maxed out, and this would potentially prevent a reduction in supply and potentially make a case for increased supplies in the future. And two, WRD is able to benefit from the additional supply that they're seeking. And so Tetra Tech is currently contracted with the district for on-call services at this time. They have completed all of the district's hydraulic modeling for the recent years and have proposed $16,300 for this work, and this is part of the already approved budget. And so district staff, Tetra Tech, WRD, and the sanitation districts are meeting this week on Friday. And so information and parameters obtained at that meeting will be input into the hydraulic model by Tetra Tech. And so we hope to have this investigation completed by the end of next month. And if it is acceptable, because there will not be any updates in between now and then, that we can bring an update to the March board if you like. And that concludes my update.
There is one thing to mention. This is a concept at this time. There are a lot of complexities in terms of the ownerships of the water, the contracts with the county station districts, the ability to move it back and forth, whether we're preserving their right or our right in that. So we're just starting and looking at that. And also there's a financial impact. What does it cost to move water through our system or to exchange water? So we're working on those concurrently with the engineering studies.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Director Grajeda, this was presented to the engineering subcommittee.
No. Was it?
No, this just came up.
Was it just came up?
Yeah, that's why
We've
we
been talking about it, but this is, I'm glad that it's finally come before the full board so they can understand what's going on here. It seems that the biggest hurdle on this would be the county, and if the county somewhat blesses it, then I would think that it would move further, other than the fact that you're saying you have some hydraulic analysis.
Yeah, we're not sure of the ability to meet these type of flows in this type of pattern. And we've talked with WRD if there's minor capital required or storage required, then we talk about it. But the concept is, this is just like a cartoon version concept of it, and now we're going through the details. But certainly encouraging, and something that's a win-win for both agencies.
We are not sure, hence the need for doing the study.
Yeah.
More questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Item 23, discussion on construction progress of UTC's aerospace recycled water expansion pipeline project.
Good morning, Director. This is an update on the construction for the UTC Aerospace Recycled Water Expansion Pipeline Project. It's a 6-inch PVC within the city of Santa Fe Springs and Norwalk, running about 2,000 linear feet south on Norwalk Boulevard, connecting to our system on Florence Avenue. As an update for the construction, as of last Friday and today, all of the pipeline, the 6-inch pipeline has been installed, and the contractor's planning to pressure test the line and install the service line and meter this week. At the last committee meeting, we were asked to have some pictures of the construction. These are some of the The work is happening at night, so these are some of the pictures for of the construction going on. The contractor was potholing on January 23rd. Let me see. This is the contractor installing the 6-inch PVC pipeline along Norwalk Boulevard. The contractor installing a 6-inch gate valve. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to address it.
Questions?
Is the update construction schedule data dated February 15th still? The completion date is still the same as reflected on that?
On March 1st?
Yeah.
As of today, the contractor will be done with the pipeline, with the installation of the pipeline by Wednesday, but the final compacting and the final paving, as of right now, we're expecting it to happen towards the end of next week. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Closed session, Council.
Yes, one item for closed session today pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1 and Part 5, Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 1.4D of the Administrative Code, Triennial Performance Evaluation and Review of General Counsel. So the board met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1 and Part 5, Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 1.4D of the Administrative Code, Triennial Performance Evaluation and Review of General Counsel. The General Counsel's contract was extended by 1 year, and the board will go for an RFP for General Counsel services in January of 2019.
And the general counsel was cautioned about cost control and being frugal in our expenditures in the next year and getting better direction from the general manager.
That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman.
General managers?
Oh, that's it. Now, I don't know, do we need to go back to item 21, or is this good enough, Maggie, for the item that, I'm sorry, the item about the, I don't have my second part of my...
Oh, the JC?
Item 16.
Item 16, rather? Number 2? To extend the term of the contract with additional 1 year effective. That's what you think?
If the board would like to consider it now, if they can.
Well, that's what they just reported out.
So for us, it also would be, they did not fund it for the 96.
They did not, that's a separate issue. They did not fund the 96. Item 2, they extend the term of the current contract for 1 additional year, effective July 1 through June 30th, 2020. It says in here $25,000 a month. The amount is to be determined in the budget process instead of another 3. There's no need to allocate an amount at this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
My thoughts, Mr. Chair, would be that we just bring it back at the next meeting, and that way we can clean all that up, because we'll have more time to talk about that.
Yeah. Will we have a budget amount by then?
Well, that's what we said, we would bring it back at the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm joking. Okay, but we'll bring it back for the resolution at the next meeting. That's fine. That's it. No other comments?
Okay. Directors, anybody have a comment? Nobody? Okay, if not, meeting's adjourned.